Hi, Simon. Thanks so much for taking the time today to share a bit of perspective around like what a CFO actually has to do with a CRM such as HubSpot. You approached us a while ago and said like, hey, I know like I might not be your typical stakeholder as a CFO, but actually I have a job to do in fundraising, in finance in general, and I like to get a lot of these numbers from the CRM. I currently don't. Can you help me and like can we work together to get this done? Can you share a bit more about your track record? Like you've been in this finance role for the third time in a row in like a hypergrowth environment. What's Voliro doing? What's the track? What's the journey you're on?
Cool. Yes, thank you, Manuel, for inviting me on this show. So my name is Simon, the CFO at Voliro. We are a typical robotics company. We develop a flying robotics platform for work at height. And we are general availability of our product is 15 months now. So beginning of 2023, the first products were shipped out. We sold nearly 3 million in ARR right now. So we basically really did that hyper scale. And when I joined in October last year in 2023, I realized that, okay, we cannot sell and we cannot scale if we don't have our CRM in order, which is at that stage of the company still a little bit decoupled from finance, accounting, and ARR tracking, which is okay. But I mean, ultimately, it would be the goal to combine everything, right, and to have it as a one single source of truth. And that's where we are at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, congrats first of all to the very amazing like growth trajectory from 0 to 7 figures, like in about less than 12 months. Now already it's 3 million, steep onward traction. And I think one thing that really impressed me when you came on the first call and you mentioned like, hey, this is the spreadsheet I'm now using. I was like, that's really good because I'm doing this for the third time, so I know what to look for, but how do I get this out of the CRM? And we see this so many times that even the founder and CEO goes in like, okay, let me show you the HubSpot dashboard, but now let me open an Excel file where the real data is because I don't trust it. And like, or most of the times, let me open 3 Excel files, like some handwritten notes, my Notion page, my CRM, my Bexio, like, or whatever finance system, and like a handwritten ledger. So what's your take on the most important metrics like that you need as a CFO to also raise funding, like make sure like headcount planning works from a cash flow perspective and so on, and other things?
Yes. I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, why does a CFO even care? It's all about fundraising, right? So the number one priority that I had when I joined was always fundraising. So I needed to make sure that we basically display the company in a way that investors, potential investors, existing investors understand it. So that means gathering the information and turn it into a easy to understand way and display it. And there is usually, as you mentioned, many tools, many spreadsheets, many information sources that are hard to gather and hard to make understandable. So the CRM itself is so important to have at least everything that is top of the P&L being displayed and reported in a consistent way. So let's say ARR tracking, revenues, and then cash flow is anyways always separate out of HubSpot.
Sure.
I don't feel that this is an important source to do on HubSpot, but I mean from sales to revenue to cash is quite an important journey in the sales cycle that is very important for the CFO. And as long as the data is correct in the CRM, you basically can forecast more efficiently.
Yeah, and I think it's so critical for trust. And I know this from many companies at your stage, like lower 7-figure ARR or even higher 7-figure ARR, that I asked 3 people, like the CEO, the chief revenue officer, or chief sales officer, and the CFO about the same metric, and all of 3 of them replied with a different number. So basically, like, what's ARR right now? And like one person like with 2 million, and one like 2.5, like 1.5. Like, guys, if I'm a VC right now and I want to give you Series A money, like 10 million, this is the moment you lost me, because if you
Yes.
don't even internally agree, and I need to present this to the board, why we invest like 8 figures, like you need to get your things together, politely put. I mean, this is critical between like company valuation of like 40 million versus 50 million, then just like on the trust an investor has, that you do what you say and you say what you do and you know what you're doing.
I mean, it's for me, this is not an issue only of the tooling. The tooling helps, but it's also an issue of responsibility within the
Yes.
team, right? So we have clearly agreed that the numbers topic, any kind of number, is always my topic. So hence we will never have a different, communication external regarding our metrics.
About booked or contracted ARR or rolled out ARR or collected ARR, or like, do you count like 3-month pilots, which you don't do, like from what I understand, which I love, as ARR, like our service fees one time in there as well. Like, yeah, so much on clarity.
And so important, and that's why also I was heavily involved in the HubSpot setup that we did with you, is because I then in the aftermath had an intern running through each of the won deals and adjust the numbers exactly to, clean out the non-recurring stuff. Because I mean, ARR means annual recurring revenue. If you have a 3-month period, or if you have a one-off shipping cost or whatever that you invoice or that you put on the contract as well, it's not ARR. So you need to put it out of your metrics. And that's what's confusing, because people don't know what ARR exactly is, right?
Yeah, except the ones that are consciously like painting lipstick on a pig, right? I love that you're like more conservative in a sense. Like, I know founders that they run only, like, they don't have even annual contracts, and they like say like, oh, like our customer lifetime is 9 months. Like, that's ARR. Like, well, that's not even recurring. That's not even annual at all. And I love that candidate you have. Can you share a bit more when you mentioned like, hey, the setup that we did with you, like a SalesPlaybook on HubSpot, like what exactly did you do? Like, what did you like the most? What was critical?
Yeah, so I mean, the overall partnership, when I reached out to you guys, or I was even introduced, even though we knew each other before, but it was a funny situation. I came with my magic spreadsheet and I showed you guys, this is the data that I need. This is how I fundraise. I'm able to fundraise with that because we were already in the process, and I was using a spreadsheet. It worked well. But in the Series B, in 1.5 years, 2 years, I want to use HubSpot and the screenshots out of HubSpot to basically display the same way that have been proven to be successful. So what we did is we really looked at the setup, and we said, this is the result and this is what we need. And then we adjusted the whole processes as well as the deal stages, etc., flexible to our business model, which is, not always easy, let's say, because a consultant is most of the time quite far away from the business model of the entrepreneur. But I felt like in our setup, where Eric was really, really deep into our processes and talked so many times with our sales reps how the sales cycle actually worked and how each stage needs to be defined, and who of the other persons in the team need to receive which trigger when one stage goes into the next, etc. So it was really, really good. And what I especially loved about this was it was flexible, as well as it was to a reasonable scope of work. So what I fear sometimes is like, you can do whatever Ferrari and Rolls Royce in a CRM. It's not needed most of the time, especially where we have high annual contract values. It's not needed that every single field is already filled and the CRM is nitty-gritty. I think that you define 10 metrics from top down, and you say those preferences need to be set fully correctly. So really appreciated how this was then conducted in the end.
Yeah, no, appreciate the shout out to Eric here on like being bespoke in a sense of understanding the revenue model and the team and the structure. I think it's always easy to have like all 50 fields in there and like have 27 lead scoring models in there. But I mean, if it doesn't provide business value, the CRM will not get adopted. And if it doesn't get adopted, the whole point of a single source of truth for revenue gets lost. It just doesn't work. And yeah, I loved it as well when Eric worked on our own HubSpot, which I still set up. It's like, man, do you mind if I archive roughly 2/3 of the field, but make the other ones mandatory per stage? And I think that's the way to go. Um, who would you
Exactly.
recommend this? I mean, would you recommend any CFO to say like, hey, look, you actually need to get closer to the CRM, like you stop living in Sage, Abacus, Bexio, whatever, or is that really literally like just a topic for like hypergrowth fundraising where it's really critical?
I mean, it depends what information you need to plan accurately and to steer the company based on financially driven decisions. Because, you know, a CFO with a highly cash flow positive company might have other needs than what
Yeah,
we have, right? But then again, I mean, there's so many touch points that are important, especially also, you know, just the relationship between sales reps and the finance teams. It's very important that this is highly aligned because, you know, we are talking about commission, quota attainments, and it's always a friction, you know. And
yes,
if the sales rep has another opinion on the total contract value in the CRM, because, you know, he populates it themselves, and in finance, you have the invoicing amounts as well as the you know the real contract value that is being recognized as revenue over time. It might cause big harm in the relationship of salespeople, which is never fun, you know, because
correct.
we are working together and not against each other. It's one team, right? So I would say
That'd be
in all the cases, you have always nice touch points where the CFO should be on top
Yeah,
of the
and that's how it
CRM
should be.
itself.
That sales works together with finance, besides the obvious marketing, customer success battlegrounds. But I know more cases than I can publicly declare where there were lawsuits, where there were like eight-figure amounts of money lost in commissions, which were never like, well, the commission was paid, but the ARR wasn't coming in. And I think it's so critical to keep like finance and sales aligned, especially in times of if profitable, efficient growth or hyper growth, where just everything goes much faster, right? Like the ship sails much faster, and you have less time to correct things if you notice like you're 5-10% off. So
Yes.
why SalesPlaybook? Like why, besides like the introduction, why us not like the world's largest HubSpot implementation partner? Besides like going pretty bespoke and tailor-made into it, the model.
I mean, to me, really, because I needed flexibility. I needed a low price because we were prior Series A, and even though, you know, consultants are always expensive, we agree on that. But I believe that you basically really nailed it on the scope, the pricing, the and the quality of the demos and what you wanted to achieve with us, and that convinced me in the end to come with you. On the other hand side, I didn't regret at any time. So even now, even though future projects are dragging a little bit because of our needs, we are still in constant touch, and I reach out to the team to, hey, can you help me there? And you know, it's just very
Yeah.
personal.
Yeah, I
That's what
think
I
it
recommend.
needs to be the case that it's personal, and like companies that try to make it like a product, like on a productized service, I think you always appreciate it if there's a blueprint of how we approach things, and also like, oh, let's just like see and how it goes and charge you like daily rates. But thanks for mentioning like consultants are expensive, we are cheap, and you can still call us without pay. No, jokes aside, I think it's critical that uh, sort of like a no junior policy, that some person sells you something, then like a business unit lead or senior like HubSpot person like goes with you in the workshop, and there's like somebody offshore doing something else that just doesn't understand your business. I've been on the receiving end of that multiple times, and I think that's also our commitment as a company to just like stay close to clients. Yeah. Anything else that you like to share on this? Yeah.
And I mean, one of the most important things that I believe is CRM setups and CRM projects should always be owned by the company itself because it's actually
Yeah.
your tool in the end. And that's what I realized also in our project is that if Eric was working too long alone and we didn't guide him and we didn't, have feedback loops, then basically it was useless because we didn't know and understand what he did. So we needed to go back and have more explanations. So in the end, you can always do it fully yourself, which will probably cause other problems, or you can go with a partner like SalesPlaybook, and then you will have somebody who guides you, but you can never fully
I 100%
outsource it
agree.
and put on autopilot.
No, that's
It's
what
not
many
working.
entrepreneurs ask us, like that are scarce of time, right? Is that can you do 100% of it by our own? There's, well, technically we could, and we just deploy blueprints. The value is not there because you need the knowledge transfer, and you need to understand like how, that's basically like the representation in a digital format of your business, and it needs to fit you like for adoption for to be your business. So it's like an 80-20 split,
Yeah.
we roughly say. Yeah.
Yep.
Any quantified business benefits? I mean, it's always hard to quantify in terms of like saved manual work or basically like saved hours over time, but like any estimate on your side where it's like, hey, I have like as a CFO 5, 25, 50% less time that I need to spend on a weekly or monthly basis.
I mean, in the end, I mean, there is always work you can do. You always optimization. So I couldn't even quantify what I saved. I think I just naturally shifted my attention to other areas, which might be connected to the CRM or not. Um, Today I do my reportings out of HubSpot, fully automated, but it's roughly the same amount of time that I have when exporting and put into my blanket Excel spreadsheet, which I still do it on a monthly basis because our
Yeah.
investors are used to that, but I'm not doing it on a weekly basis
But the
anymore.
difference
So
is like before you did it on a monthly basis and it was work. And if anybody asks between, like you needed to put in the work, now you can basically like on any given Tuesday, it's like, hey, look, I give it to you on Tuesday. Fine by me. So there's a big difference on data availability and
exactly.
reliability and comparability for, yeah.
Yes, and this is not only because the setup is good now, but also because the sales team has been forced by the setup to
Yeah.
populate CRM well. That's the more important thing than the setup itself, because I mean, yes, it's inherently the same
Yeah,
thing,
but I
but
mean, natural compliance of sales with how the business should run is so important because if you just say there's 27 fields, please fill them out when you got a second, it will just never work. It just doesn't. Yeah. So happy that that's
yes,
now like
yes,
automatically sales enters the data the right way, you get it the right way, you can export it the right way, and it's consistent. Very
exactly,
cool. Anything
exactly.
else that you would like to share with anybody like listening here, like looking at this?
No, I would just say, especially CFOs, get your hands on CRM. Finance people also, you learn a lot. It's also a good learning experience. Uh, Salespeople fill the CRM diligently and don't underestimate the importance of it. And other than that, I mean, great to work with the team doing the HubSpot setup. I was really happy, and yeah, just happy
Thanks so much.
selling.
Love that closing words. The same I use in my signature as well. Yeah, thanks so much for your investment into a proper like CRM structure and like your trust in SalesPlaybook. Really appreciate it, and let's keep in touch.